Harold Briggs stood on the sidewalk in front of the small brick duplex he'd called home for 11 years, watching two men in matching polos carry his recliner out the front door and set it down in the gutter like it was garbage. His hands trembled at his sides, not from age, though he was 78, but from something closer to disbelief. A folded American flag, the one they'd given his late wife at his own memorial service rehearsal, the one he kept on the mantel, was sitting face down on the wet pavement next to a box of photographs that had already started to slide out into a puddle. Behind the workers, supervising with his arms crossed and a phone pressed to his ear, stood Marcus Doyle. Pressed slacks, watch worth more than Harold's monthly pension. He didn't even look at the old man while he spoke. "No, just get it all out. I don't care where it goes. The least technicality is the least technicality. I'm not running a charity." "Mr. Doyle." Harold's voice cracked, but he pushed through it. "I called the number on the notice. I told them I was 3 days late because my VA check process is on the 5th, not the 1st. It's always been like that. Then take it up with the VA." Doyle didn't even lower the phone from his ear. "Not my problem." A box tipped over near the curb. Metals spilled out onto the asphalt. A purple heart, a few service ribbons, a dog tag chain tangled around a photograph of a young man in dress green standing in front of a rice paddy somewhere outside Khe Sanh, 1968. Across the street, a man in a faded Marine Corps veteran's ball cap had stopped walking. He'd noticed the trucks first, the way you notice anything out of place on a quiet residential block. Then, he'd noticed the flag on the ground. Then, the medals. His name was Danny Reyes. 2 tours, Helmand Province, 6 years out of the uniform, and still wired to notice things other people walked past. He didn't say a word. He just took out his phone and started recording. "Sir, are you all right?" Danny called out, crossing the street, camera still rolling, capturing the boxes, the flag face down in a puddle, the old man's shaking hands. They're throwing out 40 years, Harold managed. "My wife's urn is in one of those boxes. I don't even know which one." Danny turned the camera toward Doyle. "You see this man's medals on the ground, man? You see the flag in the gutter?" Doyle finally looked over, irritated more than anything. "Who are you? This is private property. Get that camera out of my face. I'm a vet," Danny said evenly, not moving the phone an inch. "And I'm filming a guy throw another vet's life into the street like trash. Public sidewalk. Public street. I can film whatever I want." One of the moving men, younger, maybe 25, slowed down, looking suddenly uncomfortable. He picked the flag up out of the puddle, brushed it off, and held it like it weighed more than it had a minute ago. "Don't stop working," Doyle snapped at him. "Sir, this is somebody's dad's flag," the kid said quietly. "I'm not just going to leave it in the street." Danny kept filming. He got the medals scattered on the asphalt. He got Harold's hands shaking as he tried to pick up a photograph that had already started to warp from the rain. He got Doyle's face, clear and unmistakable, saying the words "not my problem" a second time when Harold begged him for 10 more minutes to call his daughter. Within an hour, the video was online. Within 6, it had 400,000 views. By morning, it had passed 2 million, and Harold Briggs's name and Marcus Doyle's name were both trending for very different reasons. The story moved fast once it caught fire. Local news vans showed up outside the duplex by noon. A reporter held a microphone up to Harold, who sat on a stranger's porch, steps 2 doors down. A neighbor named Teresa, who'd seen the commotion and immediately brought out folding chairs and a thermos of coffee, refusing to let him sit on the curb with his own boxes. "I served 2 tours, Harold told the camera, his voice steadier now, with people around him. I never thought the hardest fight of my life would come from a landlord with a late fee. Doyle tried to get ahead of it. His company issued a statement calling the eviction fully compliant with the lease agreement and insisting the video was edited to misrepresent context. But the internet had already found Danny's full, unedited footage, 11 minutes long, nothing cut, nothing out of order. People had also found Doyle's old social media posts, vacation photos in front of yachts, a caption joking about how he doesn't do sob stories, only spreadsheets. That post alone got screenshotted 500,000 times. 3 days later, a different kind of crowd showed up outside the duplex. Not reporters this time, veterans. A dozen of them at first, then 30, then closer to 100. Many in their old service caps and jackets, some on motorcycles with VFW patches stitched to their vests. They didn't shout. They didn't need to. They simply stood in formation on the sidewalk, in complete silence, facing the building while a local construction company moved by the story quietly rebuilt Harold's furniture, repaired the recliner, and replaced what couldn't be saved. Doyle's company lost 2 major contracts within the week. A state senator publicly called for a review of local eviction, noticed timelines for veterans receiving federal benefits, and the property management board that had backed Doyle's decision suddenly remembered, very loudly and very publicly, that they had grave concerns about how the matter had been handled. Harold didn't get his old apartment back. He didn't want it. Instead, the local VFW chapter, with help from donations that had poured in from strangers across the country, helped him into a small house 2 streets over. One with a porch big enough for the recliner and a mantel exactly the right size for a flag that would never touch pavement again. On the day he moved in, Danny showed up with a box he'd kept safe the whole time. Harold's medals, cleaned and polished, sitting in a velvet case Danny had bought with his own money. Found these in the chaos, Danny said, handing it over. Figured a man who earned these shouldn't have to ask twice. Harold held the case for a long moment, then looked up at him. 11 minutes, he said. That's all it took to change everything. Danny shook his head. No, sir. 11 minutes just let everybody else see what was already true the whole time. You earned everything in that box a long time before I ever pressed record. The video is still up. The caption underneath it, added later by Danny, just reads, "We don't leave anyone behind. Not on the battlefield, and not on the sidewalk either."